Before we start entertaining your calls, let us first of all get this report done for us by Rita Moto about this latest development of these funds in Nigeria.
The British government resolved on Tuesday to return to Nigeria £4.2 million, equivalent to 2.2 billion naira funds recovered from friends and family members of a former governor, has stirred up debates pitting the federal government against the Delta State government of Nigeria. James Ibori, former Delta State governor from 1999 to 2007, pleaded guilty in 2012 in a UK court to money laundering, conspiracy to defraud, and forgery, and was sentenced to 13 years in prison. Some of his associates and family members also received sentences for similar offenses, though he was later released in 2016 and returned home. On March 9, the UK and Nigerian governments signed an agreement to send the stolen funds recovered by UK agencies back to Nigeria, where it will be spent on key infrastructure and building works for the Nigerian people. This has sparked fireworks as to the rightful destination and use of the funds. To the Attorney General and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, the funds should be deployed to complete the second Niger Bridge, among other projects. To the Delta government, the funds should be returned to the Delta State. The Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center CISLAC, on their part, say the funds should be utilized to compensate victims of corruption in Delta State from whom the money was stolen, while the British High Commissioner said money obtained through criminality or corruption is not welcomed in the United Kingdom. Political corruption, it should be noted, is a persistent phenomenon in Nigeria. In 2012, the country was estimated to have lost over $400 billion to corruption since independence. In 2018, she was ranked 144th in the 180 countries listed in Transparency International's Corruption Index. Nigerian politicians find themselves in a strong position of power and wealth due to their connections with the oil and gas industries, as many own or have shares in these industries. Tax revenues from the energy sector are diminished, and the benefits of Nigeria's energy wealth is not evenly distributed throughout the country, with Lagos State benefiting disproportionately. However, after a successful transition to democratic rule in 1999, Nigeria launched a high-profile campaign aimed at securing the repatriation of looted public funds being held in foreign banks. Then President Olusegun Obasanjo championed the campaign, and in 2020, under President Muhammadu Buhari, the country was able to repatriate about $322 million out of close to $5 billion of the Abacha loot. Sani Abacha ruled Nigeria from 1993 to his death in 1998. Since then, Nigeria is still struggling to recover his loots. The government of President Buhari is nonetheless struggling with this phenomenon, though the poor functioning of his accountability institutions pose a complex problem, as they need to make sure that the money is not embezzled again and that those looted should actually benefit the real victims of corruption.
Thank you so much, Rita Moto, for that elaborate report on this latest development in Nigeria. The UK is to return 4.2 million pounds to Nigeria, money that was stolen by the former governor of the Delta State, James Ibori. He became governor of the Delta State in 1999, and during his stay as governor of that state, he actually stole a lot of money, huge sums of money, some of this money which the UK is now saying it is going to return to Nigeria after they signed an agreement. That is, the UK government and the Nigerian government signed an agreement on Tuesday for this money to be returned to Nigeria. Now, the Nigerian government or the UK saying that Nigeria should use this money for infrastructure purposes to try to see how the country can improve on its infrastructure. But a greater question here is, this money was stolen from the Delta State. Will this money not be sent back to ameliorate the living conditions of the people in the Delta State? So that's the question this day. How is it possible that one individual can siphon such a huge amount of money sent out of the country without the government being aware? So we are looking at all of that on the program this day, and in the minutes ahead to join us in the studio is Mr. Nkengafric. He is a youth leader. In the minutes ahead, he will be joining us to discuss more on this very particular topic. So our numbers are on the screen. You can always call us and tell us what you think about today's program. Corruption that is eating so deep, or that has eaten so deep in several countries in Africa. We tend to discover that when an individual is given a post of responsibility, he goes there for his own self-interest, and the common man tends to suffer. The case in time is this former governor of the Delta State, who was able to steal this huge sum of money while he was in that position. So what can be done to curb corruption in Nigeria and in the continent as a whole? Now joining us in the studio is Mr. Nkengafric. He actually has several functions, but for now we shall focus on he is a national and continental youth leader. He is actually the president of Cameroon National Youth of the APYCM division. So Mr. Nkengafric, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for pleased to be here to discuss issues concerning the continent and see how we can join our voices together to push the continent beyond the expectation of corrupt leaders, and see how we young people can chip in our ideas in such a way that we will not only look at the continent that has been destroyed for so long, but look at the continent that is promising for the young generation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkengafric, for honoring our invitation. And we shall be coming back to you. But before we get to you, let's get this other report of how James Ibori was first arrested. James Ibori has been arrested several times. Before he came to Nigeria to run as governor for the Delta State, he was actually in the UK, and he was convicted there in 1991. He was convicted in UK for theft. So let us get this report done.
According to British prosecutors, he racked up credit card bills of over $200,000 a month, owned at least 8 luxury homes in London, drove a car that cost $680,000, and had paid a deposit for a $20 million plane, when his official salary was just $25,000 a year. James Ibori, the former governor of Delta State, admits he stole hundreds of millions of dollars from public coffers to fund his lifestyle of extraordinary luxury and opulence. Back home, the impact of Ibori's corrupt practices are evident. The feeling is that Ibori's stolen loot could have been used for much-needed development.
Transportation.
Take education, one of the most underfunded sectors in Delta State. This school has 160 students working out of 6 bedrooms in a rented house. There's no electricity, no water, and hardly any teaching aids. Despite the fact that on paper, Delta State is one of Nigeria's richest, as one of its major oil-producing states. The head teacher is uncomfortable talking about the corruption case against the state's former governor, but says the impact of years of misappropriated public funds is clear.
Oh, definitely. What we lack here is accommodation. As you can see, we are in a rented apartment. The government need to do a lot of things to improve the education setting, because education for now is not getting the very maximum things it needs.
And it's not just education. Many development programs are thought to have been greatly underfunded under Ibori's rule, as he siphoned off public money out of the country through various front companies to the UK.
The people worst affected by James Ibori's corruption are hoping that the British authorities return some of the hundreds of millions that he stole, so that it can be pumped back into their communities.
And many question why, when Nigerian authorities once arrested the former governor on the same corruption charges, they were all dropped and he was set free. Following his guilty plea and the charges involved, Ibori could be jailed for up to 10 years when he's sentenced in April.
Thank you so much for that element. We just listened to how James Ibori was able to get such huge sums of money into a foreign country, and how the UK government, or how the people living in the Delta state have been hoping that the Nigerian government could be able to retrieve this money from the UK back to the country, and why not inject this money back into their community to better their living conditions. Like we just saw in the report, we see that the people there are actually struggling to survive. We saw children in a classroom that is not even well equipped. Now, so that's those of you just joining us, we are looking at Nigeria, and this is Views on the Continent. We are talking about Nigeria. The UK is to return 4.2 million pounds. That's an equivalent of 2.2 billion naira to Nigeria that was stolen by the former governor of Delta State, James Ibori. And like I mentioned earlier on, with us in the studio is Mr. Nkengafric. He is a national and international youth leader. Now, turning to you, Mr. Nkengafric, now, what explains the fact that one person is able to transfer such a huge sum of money from his country into a foreign country without the authorities of that country actually knowing of all of this?
I believe the failure begins in the administration at the time. Maybe the system of governance is weak enough to allow such, and mostly because most of them are of the same track. Mm-hmm. Most government officials in Africa, when they get into offices, embezzlement becomes like a source of, it becomes an order of the day. You see them doing it, and nobody can question this, because not only him alone is doing that. We are able to know about this because it has been reported. What about other leaders that have not been reported? And you can see this, that this money is too huge to turn development around in the country, and this is up to the money that some countries will use it as their own budget for the year. You see, it is very terrible that we Africans have not built a leadership that can be able to hold leaders accountable for wrongdoing and for corruption, and this is why it is the thing keep repeating itself. I believe the country of Nigeria is a huge potential in the continent of Africa, and discipline when such an incident occurs, the administrative need to take harsh measures, because these young Nigerians and Africans dying in the Mediterranean Sea to access abroad, this money would have been able to create more jobs for them, and they will make the continent and the country more strategic in the development of the continent as well. Because most of these leaders will believe that embezzlement of such magnitude should be equivalent to death, because it is not only punishing somebody for 10 years, that has equivalent of how many people have suffered as a consequence of that embezzlement. If you look at the consequence, look at the people, look at the population, how suffering they are, and you equip it to that 10 years of sanction, it is not even worth mentioning 10 years to such. That person supposed to be, in fact, it is being said that in Africa we celebrate corrupt leaders. It is true, because if this happened in China or somewhere, like, these people will be killed, and it is as a result of eliminating such bad seed that we have good seed, have maybe a good environment or fertile environment to show up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkengafric. Now, when we look at the profile of James Ibori before he became governor, it said that in 1991 he was convicted in the UK for theft. He was actually a cashier at DIY store in the UK. That's in the 1980s when he moved to the UK, and he was convicted of theft in 1991. So when he came to Nigeria in 1991, he actually changed his date of birth to be able to run for governorship. So what explains the fact that it doesn't mean in Nigeria, before somebody takes up a position of responsibility in the government, the person is not thoroughly investigated? So how is it possible that the Nigerian government was able to overlook this part of Mr. Ibori's profile?
You know, politics in Africa is not that smooth, and it is not that transparent the way we expect it to be, in the sense that having been young as he was at the time and having access to such money, he was able, and he could be able, that he can bribe a lot of politicians to make his way up to the top, where he will have more access to do better in the field of embezzlement.
Okay.
So that is the area where we find ourselves, because when you have young people with talent do not have access to power that they can transform the community or the development of the country, but people with corrupt money have clear access, and that explains why our leadership, our transformation of Africa is still lacking compared to other continents.
And what needs to be done to try to fight this corrupt system in Africa that is actually eating up and making the common man to suffer? How can corruption be tackled in Africa?
Corruption in Africa, I think it can be tackled with the level at which punishment will be beyond expectation. That is, if you, for instance, being in the Gulf and seeing how Arab countries have been managed, corruption, you will hardly find such practices in Arab countries. Even we know corruption exists everywhere, but you will hardly find this, because immediately you are found with such magnitude of corruption is equivalent to death, because you must have killed. Look at the population. If you examine that money and look at the population that have died, not for lack of access to drinking water, lack of motorable good roads that they could maybe carry out their activities, and a lot more developmental activities that could have been put in place for the community to benefit. If you equip it to that money, you will realize that a lot of people, thousands of people have died as a result of that. And so keeping him in jail does not simply explain that we are fighting corruption enough. So we should put mechanism in place where there is a certain level where your corruption or your embezzlement will not be, the punishment equipped to that level of corruption will, when you, even you dream of it, you should be able to like get up and do fasting so that you don't fall a victim. So punishment mechanism put in place by government to fight corruption is the only way out to stop people from being corrupt, and the ability to execute that mechanism when it comes, when the time comes. Like now he has been captured, and it is with evidence, they are all proof that he embezzled. When you look at 10 years jail for such a person who has destroyed many lives, I don't think it is worth that kind of embezzlement. Something else should be done. Even life jail could be better for such people, so that it can teach a lesson to upcoming embezzlers.
Now, James Ibori, when you look at, he was convicted in the UK in 2012, and we are in 2021. So why did it take the Nigerian government that long, or the UK government this long, to send back this money that Ibori stole to Nigeria? Why, in your opinion, why did it take this long for the money to be sent back?
I think there are many dimensions to look at that question, in the sense that perhaps if the UN, the UK realizes that the money is huge and it cannot just be transferred back to the government without knowing if the government has had a good leadership in place that can effectively manage that budget to improve lives of Nigerians. Okay. And another reason is that through diplomatic means and other measures being taken, it must be proved that the UK do not want to see itself like being blamed at the end of releasing the money, that it still goes to another hand of the similar person, who maybe if you send it to another government which is still corrupt, it will end up in another corrupt hands, and it will end up not changing the lives of Nigerians. So it is important to take proper time to see if it is right and the government in place is well equipped with the leadership skills that can manage the money to improve the Nigerians' lives.
So are you saying that this current administration in Nigeria is trustworthy by the UK government to be able to properly handle these funds at this point in time?
Perhaps not actually trustworthy, but it could as well due to pressure, and it could as well due to amicable understanding between the two countries that they see a need to do such, to take such a move.
Okay. Now, this money, the UK says this money should be used for infrastructure purposes, to build roads, to build bridges in Nigeria as a whole. In your opinion, don't you think this money should be sent back to the Delta State to where the money came from? Even if there is some surplus, then it can be used in Nigeria as a whole, but the primary aim of this money is to be sent to Nigeria for infrastructure purposes as a whole. What is your take on this?
I think my take on it is that as long as the money is being sent to Nigeria and it is well used in improving the lives of Nigeria, no matter the state, it remains a positive opinion. And so sending it only to Delta State is not the best, to my opinion, as long as we have leadership in place that can guarantee us that at the end of this money, the evaluation will prove that developmental changes have taken place in other states of Nigeria, because you have to understand that being a Delta State is still part of Nigeria, and most of this connection that the money entered into him could not just be from Delta State, and it could be as the name of Nigeria would have been used to siphon some of this money, so it should be used in improving the lives of Nigerians, and also the Delta State in particular as well.
So now, given the fact that one person was able to siphon this large amount of money out of the country to a Western country, can this money be used for the purpose that is for infrastructure? Now that the money, they're saying that this money should be used for infrastructure, can it actually be used for that purpose without it being dwindled, without it being changing its trajectory, to changing its focus?
In Africa, we cannot guarantee anything in this current leadership we have in Africa, because none is so different that we can rely on in maybe some deep changes like what you are saying. It will be difficult to guarantee that this money will be used for exact purpose for which it is mentioned, but all we expect to see is at the end of the utilization of this money, we should have some developmental changes that can, one in a reasonable mindset can accept that the money was well utilized and it has ended up improving the lives of Nigerians.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkengafric. If you're just joining us, this is Views on the Continent on Africa Media, and our focus this afternoon is on Nigeria. We are talking about a huge sum of money that the United Kingdom has decided, after signing an agreement with the Nigerian government on Tuesday, to return to Nigeria. This is money that was stolen by the former governor of the Delta State, James Ibori. While he was in office, he was able to accumulate huge sums of money. It is said that this money he stole and he sent to a foreign country, to the UK, where he had once been, and the Nigerian government will receive this money in the days ahead. So if you're just joining us, our numbers on the screen, you can call us and tell us what you think about this move by the UK, and what you think about the Nigerian government and how an individual was able to steal this huge sum of money and to live, to portray a very lavish lifestyle, because it is said that James Ibori, he actually has houses in the UK as well as in Nigeria, just as a governor, and it says his annual salary was 25,000 US dollars. How is it possible somebody with a salary of $25,000, how was he able to live such a life of having property here and there? So that's what we are looking at. You can always call us and tell us what you think. We have indications of our first participant on the line. Hello, Mr. Derek. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon, Larissa. Good afternoon to all viewers of Afric Media. Good afternoon also to the panel with you on studio. My name is Derek. I'm calling from Cote d'Ivoire in the town of Abidjan. Talking about the returning of funds to the Delta State government, to the Nigerian government, it is a very big joy for us as Africans, as Pan-Africanists, to see that a country like the UK is strongly in support of sending back funds stolen from the budget of a nation, Nigeria, with a very big population, and that of Delta, particularly a very rich region, a very rich state with oil, but whose citizens are actually very suffering. So it is a very laudable initiative, but then let us hope that they match their words with action, because we may not know what happens tomorrow. And then what criteria does the federal government put in place to admit people into public offices? That I do not really know, because I am not a Nigerian, but I think it is very good to have very clear and very logical and very serious screening committees that will take people into offices, especially to public offices of that magnitude. Imagine a governor who can be able to take away such amounts of money. I think corruption can be defeated. Corruption can be defeated if we as Africans leave this issue of God being merciful and what. Let us use the system that we have seen in other areas, like in China, where a corrupt citizen is stoned or being killed in front of the people, and all his belongings taken away, so that people can begin to see the evil in itself. What we have been seeing so far has been people sent to jails, people doing some funny type of punishment that are not really serious. I think the punishment given to corruption needs to be more severe, so that people can see the evil actually that is being committed. And also, judging on how the money will be used, I think the population of Delta State will enjoy these either indirectly or directly, but I think it will be mostly indirectly. For example, building a stretch of road will facilitate movement, building leisure parks will make people to enjoy, and even building complexes will just beautify the town, and that is good, and that contributes to the development. So the money should come back, and something should be done with it to help the people, either to see or to enjoy. Good afternoon, Derek.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andy Derek, for your contribution. For those of you just joining us, this is Views on the Continent on Afric Media, and we are talking about Nigeria, money that was stolen by the former governor of the Delta State, James Ibori. The UK has signed an agreement with Nigeria that this money will be sent back to Nigeria, and this money will be used for developmental purposes, like the construction of roads and bridges, that is to say infrastructure as a whole. That's what this money will be used for. We have an indication of another caller on the line. Hello, Mr. Maurice Martin. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Good afternoon, Laurencia. Yes, Laurencia, this issue of James Ibori is just actually one of the many that have gone unnoticed, or that are still going unnoticed up to today within the African continent. So a lot of the African money and so on and so forth are getting their way back to European banks. Whatever happened, whatever that money is used for, and so on and so forth, we don't actually know. And you see, most of that money, just at times, we only know about some of these money, like the case of James Ibori, when something has actually happened. But when they're actually transiting that money into their economies and they're putting it into your banks and using it, we'll never know about it. We'll only know maybe whatever, when something must have happened and they're actually cutting links with those particular individuals. So when you look at the situation, you see it's actually horrible. When he was extradited back to Nigeria, you saw the way he was welcomed back in his state, Laurencia. I actually marvel. Even the return or the triumphant entry to Jesus to Jerusalem, I don't think was actually that particular way. But whatever, you see, even the BBC described James Ibori as a petty, as somebody who left from a rank of a petty thief to the rank of a governor. So you look at that kind of a situation, which means that actually when you are somebody straightforward in the government, you may not actually triumph somehow. And this brings us to the issue in Africa, where we talk of actually building institutions. We have failed woefully in Africa because we don't build institutions, we build people. That's why you see some people, they are called natural candidates. Some people, they are called, they know that they are only them. And the day they will no longer be there, the state will fall. So we have to concentrate and see how we start building institutions than building people to be able. Nigeria too has the EFCC. What is he doing? So these are some of the things that they should be able to preempt. There is not only come in to counter these things, but they should be able to preempt. There should be rules, preventive rules, to be able to see how they can counter some of these things before they happen. And what to Nigeria, are they going to use this money favorably? Well, we cannot tell, but if you have to draw an example from the Abacha's loot and how it was actually spent, you see it is still somehow very much questionable. And to be sincere with you, Laurencia, when most of these governments, before they release this money, they release it under stringent measures, and you have to sign a lot of accords on how most of those money has to be used. Most of the time, there were even at times whereby they used to sign accords that, they will come with the money themselves and build road and build infrastructure and do one of those things because they want that money to trickle back to their own, for their own benefit and so on and so forth. They actually say, oh, if the money is coming back to you, it will be used for corruption or for other kind of a thing, because they actually know that it is huge sum of money. But whatever, Nigeria has a right for that money, and I think that actually the government of Nigeria, under the command of President Muhammad Buhari and Vice President Osinbajo, can create a commission to see how they can manage this load from James Ibori, and also see how they can create another commission to investigate what happens to Abucha's load, which actually returned to Nigeria, was actually meant to carry out some projects, and up to today we don't know how favorably that money was used. Nice day, Laurencia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maurice Martin, for your contribution. That the Buhari administration can his own take that the Buhari administration could actually create a committee to see how these funds can be better managed. Now, coming back to you, Mr. Nkengafric, you just listened to Mr. Maurice Martin, and the last thing he said, his suggestion that the Buhari administration could create a committee to see how these funds could be better managed, and also launch an investigation to actually see what happened for such a huge sum of money to be sent out of the country. What do you think about all of this?
I think what he just said is the best way. I appreciate the view of him, and I think that the government in place of the government of Muhammadu Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari, should take such measures in implementing and making sure that this money does not end up in another hands of such a similar person. And I want to say that, why is it that all the time embezzlement comes up? Our African leaders, whom we have trusted them and put them in offices, they take our money and they don't invest back in our own communities, they don't invest back in the continent, they carry it to Europe and other continents to invest. Is it that African is not does not have a favorable environment for investment, or what is the issue? Why are we too stupid to that extent that the people will be suffering, and even if it means that you should carry out developmental activities that will end up maybe retaining some money into your pocket, but as long as it is within your community, within your country, within your continent, it is still helpful. I don't appreciate when people embezzle, and how many Europeans have we ever caught them that they embezzle and brought to Africa to store in Africa? They don't do that because they know that it doesn't yield them any profit. Why must we African leaders keep doing things that makes young Africans look stupid when they want to address their situations. Because imagine a young Nigerian trying to access UK and being questioned that, why are you coming here? The person is trying to, like, I am a refugee, I'm from a data state, and they say, but your minister have so much money, your minister have, the governor has this. It is disgraceful for the Nigerian population and for African as a whole. So I don't appreciate, and I really believe that we should have a revolutionary mindset when it comes to such issues. And punishment, sanction should be meted on such people that it will help in avoiding such incident from occurring again. That is my take.
So what kind of sanction can be meted on these people who embezzle? Because most of the times they are arrested and locked up in prison, and sometimes this money is not even retrieved and taken back to the country. So what kind of sanctions can be meted on such corporates?
I think the lawmakers of the country should go into the drawing board and come out with sanctions such as, if you can embezzle up to 1 million, this is the punishment. If you can embezzle up to, and then I think up to $1 million should be equivalent to life jail, and there should be no negotiation for that. But unfortunately, when it comes to Africa and other countries, you see that the person who embezzle, who destroy the country most, is the most honorable person in the country. So we don't know how this system works. And the unfortunate thing is that young people are not in the system to maybe fight for their future. But the old people are there, and they are easily manipulated, and they keep the corruption in the train that they cannot be stopped. So we face this difficulty, and that is why most young Africans today, you find them trying to, like, you see revolution everywhere, because they want to change this mentality of having seen corrupt leaders being honored more than the vulnerable people in the street and in the villages.
Now, as a youth leader that you are, what are the African youth doing, or what more can the African youth do to bring change, given that our leaders who are already in place, they are old, and maybe their mindset is only focused on corruption? And do you think the youth, if they come up, they will not follow in the same trend? And if that be the case, what are they doing, or what can they do to change what is actually happening?
I think young Africans today, we've read a lot about colonialism, we've read a lot about imperialism, and we've read a lot about slavery. And none of our generation want to fall a victim of such again. And they think that the only way out is to give African the dignity it deserves. And it's only when African is dignified that we Africans can as well be respected. And so we don't believe that having people as such who end up disgracing our nationalities and our continent in offices is appreciated. So we young Africans today advocate for African solutions to African problems, and that is our slogan for African Patriotic Youth Council movement, because we believe that for you to even have that sense of morality, you have to have patriotism for your country, for your people, and for your continent. That is when you start judging yourself of what action you are taking. For somebody to have that amount of money embezzled and smuggled to Europe, it's not different from the Satan that we are casting in churches. And I believe that the Nigerian population, instead of casting and praying for Satan and for evils to leave them, they should pray, and they have this evil already before them. What are they doing with the evil people before them, before praying for the spiritual one? If you have a physical evil before you, you cannot handle. How far are we sure you can handle the spiritual one? So we should start handling this physical evil that we have before us, because they are evil enough to destroy lives. If you look at the result of the migrant, I still repeat this because young Africans were being sold in 2015 at the cost of $400 in Libya, and most were Nigerians as well. how do you equip this to what is happening, and to see that somebody, they are leaving their country because somebody took their money that they were supposed to use for developmental activities, for improvement of the community, and go save it in Europe. At the end, they died in the Mediterranean Sea to access abroad, to keep working for the same money that has been transferred from Africa to Europe. This is madness, and I think that we young Africans should not begin to accept this, and we should have a world mindset reformation that give us a dignity, give us the spirit of patriotism for our nation, because with that spirit, I think our morality will begin to lead us towards the right path, and the government too should put measures. Like I said, the parliament, the law department should put measures and sanctions. It should be known before time. You should not be caught before you are being told that this is what should be done. It should be known before time. If you get this done, like in Arab countries, they know that corruption for up to $1,000 is equivalent to death. It is possible, and it is realistic. In China, it's realistic. In Japan, it's realistic. Why is it not realistic in Africa? Because we can go away with what level of destruction we cause to the population. So those measures must be put in place to intimidate and to stop this from happening.
Okay, and now you talk of the youth showing patriotism to their countries, and we drift a little from Nigeria, we move to Senegal. Looking at the current situation in Senegal, do you think the only way that the youth could show their patriotism is through violence? What other ways can the youth actually put in place to make their voice heard, that they can make the continent a better one, other than violence?
Violence is not always the best way in resolving conflict. But unfortunately, in Africa, you will find it as the only way out, because people are not going to the street because they wish to go to the street. They are already pushed to the wall that they don't have an access, and the only way to react is to take any necessary measure. And sometimes you want to blame them, and you look at their life, you look at their future. When there's, imagine a graduate, a PhD holder not being able to find a job, why such embezzlement is taking place, poor leadership is going on. And for the case of Senegal, you look, I heard there is a rumor of mandate change from third mandate. So when you ask your question is, why is it that African leaders, when they are elected into offices, they don't have that that mind that I am here for a mandate, and my mandate will be judged by what I achieve during this mandate? Why only thinking of prolonging the mandate? Is it prolonging the mandate that gives you the ability to become a good leader? Because if that is the case, I don't believe it is true. J.F. Kennedy did not he did not even complete his mandate in office, and he was just 42 when he took power, and he remains one of the best American presidents. Why? Because he was able to achieve a lot in the few years that he was able to be in office. We've had Mandela, we've had leaders that has left us legacy that we can look at it and try to see. People should not, African leaders should stop thinking that it's only as long as you stay in office that you can make changes. A good leader, before entering into office, already have a vision, and the vision should be based on that mandate. Assuming that I am only going to run for 5 years, if I have another opportunity, I go for 10 years. But what if you only have that opportunity for 5 years? What will you be judging yourself as you have achieved in your term of office? So you should base your plan on that. Stop telling young people that, as you see, I have a lot in place that I have not achieved. What were you doing that you were not able to achieve? We young people, we already understand how they are functioning, and unfortunately they are being backed by colonial masters. And so we don't want to believe that this, our current generation, will begin to accept, despite the history we've read about the colonial master, how destructive they are to our continent.
Okay, Mr. Nkengafric, thank you so much. We just have a few more minutes to be on the program, and you can still call us and tell us what you think about the day's topic. 4.2 million pounds being sent back to Nigeria, money that was stolen by James Ibori while he was governor of the Delta State. This is a state that produces oil. It is thought to be one of those states in Nigeria to actually enjoy the proceeds of what it is giving out. However, the state, like we saw in the second report in the course of this program, people live in abject poverty. People can barely survive. So the question now is the Nigerian government going to be able to use this money that has been sent back to better the lives of Nigerians, or to better the lives of Nigerians, especially the people of the Delta States? Now, in your concluding words, Mr. Nkengafric, the Nigerian government, what advice can you give to the Nigerian government given this money that has been sent back to the country? We know there are individuals there who they are happy that this money has actually come, and they are already projecting on how they are also going to get their own share of the money, as corruption has eaten deep into the system. So what advice can you give to the Nigerian government on how to manage these funds?
I think for me, the Nigerian government should first of all acknowledge the presence of the money in their control. And secondly, they should outline projects that are going to be run with the money. And it's only after outlining the project and the time frame for this project to be executed with the same money that we will be able to judge the government on if they have been able to utilize the money or not. So without outlining project that the money is going to be used for, and without giving a time frame, we cannot be guaranteed that that money will be used effectively in improving the lives of Nigeria. So I think the Nigerian government should take a bold step by outlining the projects and developmental activities that this money will be used for, and the time limit and the time frame for that project. It's only then that people and young Nigerians will be active in looking at the project that was being told and how far it has gone, and if truly the money has been used for such a project after the time frame given.
Well, like you're saying, the should outline projects. Actually, some projects have already been outlined. The money will fall more on infrastructure, the construction of roads and bridges. So that's for now. That's what this money that has been sent, that is going to be sent by the UK to Nigeria, will be used for. Televiewers, we just want to thank all of you who took out time to be with us on the program today. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you also, Mr. Nkengafric and Esther, for honoring our invitation and for joining us in the studio this day. Thank you so much. Another edition of the program comes up tomorrow at 14 hours GMT with Sharon Techu with another interesting topic on the African continent. We want to thank all our technicians for being there to make the program a successful one. Until the next edition of the program tomorrow, do have a wonderful evening in the company of more programs on Afric Media.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the program. Good day to you, sir.
I very appreciate it and very appreciate all what you are talking about it. Good day and good day to all the viewers of Afric Media. Thank you, Afric Media. Thank you for what you are doing. Thank you, Africa.